Welcome to episode 47 of Full Throttle, the Presidio Group's automotive industry podcast. I'm your host again, Jason Stein, managing director at Presidio. Full Throttle continues to be the industry's go-to meeting point for bold conversations with leaders shaping the automotive world.
Honestly, the uncertainty and the volatility in the market seems to be fueling a higher number of transactions overall, which is very helpful to Plug. For us, we're living and dying by the size and the growth curve of the used electric vehicle market. And so far this year, it seems that we were very fortunate with the timing. And there's been all kinds of uncertainty around the status of tax credits and tariffs and brand affinity, to name a few.
Right.
But what we've seen overall is that the number of transactions is growing, and we are in the right place at the right time.
Innovation doesn't always come from legacy. It often comes from listening to the signals in the marketplace, listening to what consumers want, not just what they're told they need, and sometimes listening to the silence, those undeserved spaces waiting to be transformed. That's what Jimmy Douglas has always done. He's the mind behind the message, the builder behind the brand, and the founder behind Plug. Before Plug became the digital nerve center of the used electric vehicle ecosystem, Jimmy was shaping the future of vehicle remarketing at Tesla, helping redefine how pre-owned EVs were bought and sold. He saw a gap, he filled it. He saw confusion, and he brought clarity. He saw fragmentation, and he created a connection. Plug isn't just a company, it's a movement, a modern platform that helps EV buyers, sellers, and dealers speak the same language and accelerate together. From a startup idea to an industry solution, Plug is powering trust in the EV space, one transaction at a time. And Jimmy Douglas has his own very unique story to tell. He joins us today on Full Throttle, where we talk EV adoption, market transparency, and what it takes to build the infrastructure for a new automotive era.
Hi, I'm Jimmy Douglas, and this is Full Throttle.
Great to be with Jimmy again. Great to have you on the program. Thanks for being a guest on Full Throttle. How are you?
Thanks for having me, Jason. I'm doing very well. How are you?
Great. Nothing going on in your world. I mean, let me start with the latest news. You know, so much talk about EVs and about waivers and about repealing various mandates. How does that affect Plug?
Honestly, the uncertainty and the volatility in the market seems to be fueling a higher number of transactions overall, which is very helpful to Plug. For us, we're living and dying by the size and the growth curve of the used electric vehicle market. And so far this year, it seems that we were very fortunate with the timing. And there's been all kinds of uncertainty around the status of tax credits and tariffs and brand affinity, to name a few.
Right.
But what we've seen overall is that the number of transactions is growing, and we are in the right place at the right time.
That's interesting. That's not necessarily intuitive to me, right? I mean, one would think that if there is threat in the EV space, in the realm, there's chaos around the automotive industry in general, that new models may be compromised in some way. You're telling me that's not the case?
Well, for us, we are
at least not for you.
We're exclusively in the used market. So
right.
when we think about new models, anything that's newly coming off the line is basically our customer in 3 years.
Right.
So the units in operation has already been decided, and the movement of those units between owners and that cadence is really what decides like how busy we're going to be. And yeah, we're finding ourselves to be very busy.
Yeah, amazing. Give us an update on Plug. Where are you right now in your business plan? I know that the growth has been torrid. It would be a good way to describe it, right? So where are you now relative to where you want to be, and maybe where you started? Take us through Plug's business plan.
Yeah, absolutely. So we launched the auction in Q1 of last year, and our goal that quarter was to sell through our first $1 million worth of EVs, and we did that. So then our next goal was to sell through 10 million worth of EVs cumulatively within the full year of 2024, which we did. So we're not quite halfway through 2025 just yet. This is the last week of May, and we actually just crossed the 20 million cumulative milestone yesterday. So we're
Hmm.
at a run rate now of selling through about $40 million worth of EVs annually. And what we'd like to see is that number more than double, probably somewhere between 2 to 3x before the end of the summer. And at that point in time, we believe we will be on sort of the other side of product market fit. And for us, that's really a curation of supply because one thing that surprised me in building this business, which is a two-sided marketplace, is demand has actually really been the easy part for us. Curating enough EVs to satisfy the hunger for the network of dealers that are proactively looking for them has actually been the harder part.
Really? And
Mhm.
that's must surprise you.
Not anymore. Maybe a year ago, it
Yeah,
did.
right. Maybe a year ago.
But yeah, we have over 450 dealers nationwide on board now that are proactively seeking used EVs, and an average of between 3.5 and 4 unique dealers are competitively bidding on every on the average unit that's listed. So what's even more interesting is how far they move them. 50% of the sales go across state lines, and that average out-of-state move is 800 miles. So what we're seeing is that there's a number of dealers out there that have really doubled down on the used EV business, so they're very hungry for the right inventory. Meanwhile, the majority of dealers, 59% of them, don't touch used EVs at all, at least in their retail program. So when they receive them as trade-ins, that's where we really want to come in and help them with our trade desk, so we can get that EV into the right hands.
And tell us a little bit about the trade desk. I know you determine the value in your auction. You put a number on the car, you put cash behind it.
Yep.
The cash offer, I mean, effectively, it's your car then at that stage, right?
Yeah, that's right. We own the car for about a day. So when if you're a Toyota dealer and you're potentially receiving a Tesla Model S or a Lucid Air as a trade-in, you give us a small amount of information through a QR code, and 15 minutes later we provide you with a number that you can put on the car as a trade appraisal, and then we put cash behind it. So once you've sold that new car, received the trade-in, we become the owner, and then we sell it from our own auction, and then it's generally liquidated and on its way the next day.
You're taking on all the risk.
Yep.
Wow. And you just alluded to this a moment ago, but there are dealers who are I'll call them the haves and the have-nots, or the get it's and and maybe they don't get it group. Is that changing at all, Jimmy? Are you finding that there are more who are getting it than those who are no longer getting it?
It's really cultural, within the store, honestly, amongst the leadership team. And some leadership teams have decided that they want to be all in, and some have decided that they're only going to be in to the extent that they're forced to by their manufacturers, which is generally new cars and not as much on the used car side, other than maybe some lease returns that they need to take back. Uh, but yeah, there's definitely a divided house in that way. But that's actually okay because the used EV market isn't that big yet. There actually is not enough to go around for every dealer to be stocking used EVs and be experts on it. Because the only way to really make money is to have expertise within your store and have sort of a rich lineup and not just have one or two sitting around. You need to be cranking through them in generally under 4 weeks on an inventory turn time basis, and serve as a bit of a beacon in your community for where to go for used EV shopping. So when I look at the divided house, I say that actually makes sense right now. Like, let the ones who have decided to become experts continue to do that. And if you're not ready for that, or if it doesn't fit your business model yet, like, don't let anybody talk you into it.
You've had interesting stat out there that in the secondary EV market, the small dealers really are capitalizing on the majority of that market, as you just said. But 22% of used EVs are taken up by Carvana, CarMax, and Tesla.
Yeah.
And then the rest are gobbling up all of them, right? Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Not all of them, but
The remainder.
so the way that this is working right now is 2% of dealers are swallowing up about a third of the market.
Mm.
So then if you stack that on top of those top three nationwide retailers, then you've got majority. But then there is a bit of a long tail of sort of dealers in the middle that aren't all in, aren't all out, and they have like a decent proportion of it, but they're not like overperforming the market by any means.
Your thesis is that this is all about inventory turn time, right?
Yeah. hmm
Tell me a little bit more about that.
Sure. So you've met Elon more than I have, but
That's not true.
I'm old enough to remember when we had a 30-minute inventory turn time in the used Tesla business, which I'm not gonna confirm or deny any internal metrics that are not publicly available. But let me just say that's a really hard thing to do, and it may or may not defy the laws of physics. But when you're chasing an outcome that defies the laws of physics, you get really good, and you start performing best in class. And what my experience is that is an EV is increasingly becoming a computer on wheels or like an iPhone on wheels. And if you think about selling your old iPhone, you better do it before the new one comes out. The EV innovation that's taking place right now is such that every year they get cheaper and way better. And therefore, your best option, if you find one in your hands, is to liquidate it as fast as you can, rather than other business models, which might be more margin maximizing strategies, where you might let inventory sit longer until you find a very specific buyer. The dealers that are crushing it in used EVs are just moving them a lot faster than normal cars, on average 24 days.
Well, all right, you brought him up, so I'm going to get into it a little bit on your background, and let's start with Tesla, and I'm going to work my way backwards.
Cool.
But your interaction with Elon, although you joke about it, you've had some memorable ones. So one that I heard about, which was the infamous "Don't sit in the seat" meeting. I love that story, Jimmy. Can you just tell our audience a little bit about it? It was a finance meeting, wasn't it? 12 of you?
Yeah, sure. I was on the finance team, and it was 2018. It was Model 3 production hell, and yeah, Elon had been sleeping in the factory, and we were the most shorted company in the world. And the billion-dollar question was, could we build a $35,000 car, and could we build 5,000 Model 3s per week? We had accomplished neither at this point in the timeline, and there was a fairly decent sized group of us at this in this conference room in the middle of the Fremont factory, and we all filed in maybe 10, 15 minutes before Elon came in. But I was fairly new, and I didn't know a lot of the etiquette. And I sat down in a chair, and Deepak, the CFO at the time, turns to me and says, "Jimmy, that's Elon's chair." And I realized I'm sitting directly in the middle, in front of like the conference room equipment and all that. So I get up and I walk around to the other side of Deepak and sit down, and then not maybe like 30 seconds later, somebody bursts through the door, doesn't say anything to anybody, but slams a water bottle down right in front of the chair where I was sitting, and then walks out. And then, yeah, Elon and his entourage roll in there a couple minutes after that, and sits down, and the meeting begins.
What lessons did you learn from him?
A lot. I want to be clear, like
Well,
my interactions were fairly limited and basically always in meetings. But I would say that the most important lesson that I took away from that whole experience, and not just from Elon, but from Elon's direct reporting line having absorbed from him, is the concept of self-manufactured constraints. And this is not a term that's thrown around within Tesla. It's one that I sort of made up to describe what I experienced. But time and time and again, I was fairly convinced that a mission that we had in front of us was nearly impossible, if not totally impossible. And the younger, less experienced version of myself would have uh, gone through all the reasons why something is impossible and effectively talking myself out of pursuing an outcome. But those reasons that I was feeding myself were totally self-manufactured, because unless you've really pressure tested something with the level of intensity of a team that feels like they have no choice but to figure it out, either because the company will burst into flames or you'll lose your job or like something terrible will happen, until you've really looked at something through the lens of what if there's no choice but to figure it out. Until you're there, then you probably haven't rid yourself and your mind of all of the constraints that you believe are true, that you probably like manufactured yourself. And that turned out to be the case time and time and again when we pulled off outcomes that were seemingly impossible. And if you zoom out and look at the entire company's existence, let alone other companies he's built, this is exactly a reflection of that. There were so many very experienced, very well informed uh, leaders and professionals within automotive that said that the things that we were doing could not be done within the timeline or within the cost that we did it. And look what happens when you leave those constraints aside and just continue pursuing it as if the world is dependent on the success of your mission. And that's what we did.
You said that he had an inordinate ability to spot instances of inconsistencies, things that folks had not even thought about within minutes.
All the time. Yeah, all the time. That is his superpower for sure.
Hmm. Wow. You also said that high quality feedback is a gift.
Yeah, high quality constructive feedback. I went back and reread it.
Okay.
So in that famous meeting that I was just describing, I had a notebook with me, and I only wrote down two things, and they were like the two like most inspirational Elon quotes that I picked up that day. And one of them was that high quality targeted feedback is a gift, and the other one was the survival of the survival and prosperity of Tesla takes precedence over being polite. And this was him speaking to a team of finance people that were ruthlessly pursuing like bomb cost reductions, like left and right. So that was like a direct marching order to like go figure it out and don't worry about whose feelings you're hurting.
Wow. What have you taken from that experience and applied to what you're doing now? The
Yeah,
same things?
a lot. The concept of like paying attention to details like is one thing, but the first principles lens, which is what was really part of the culture there, is a totally different level because pursuing first principles requires you to tear deep, 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 deep down, like layer by layer into details of every corner of your business until you've found the nearly molecular like level of everything that you're doing. And when you tear that deep into literally everything, you find out the real reasons behind some of the decisions that were made, or maybe some of the misconceptions behind some of the decisions that were made, or potential decisions you're about to make. It's really important to understand the first principles mindset in building the foundation of a business, because everything you build on top of that foundation will be based on whatever truths you held to be true. And if you don't take the time to question them or reflect on them and ensure that what you believe to be true actually is, then you can be sent down like a really incorrect path. And imagine that, but tens of thousands of times when you're building a company at that scale. And we're a baby company by comparison, but we're taking that approach from the get-go.
I asked you what you learned from Elon Musk. What did you learn from your dad? You know, he started a company in Silicon Valley and have sold that. He once had an Oregon Christmas tree farm, Silicon
Yep.
Valley to a Christmas tree farm, and also started building cars and an internet company, vertically integrated manufacturing. What did you learn from him that you're applying as well?
Oh man, a lot. My father was a really good salesperson, but he was also an engineer, and I didn't really get the engineering characteristic, but I definitely took a lot of lessons from him and how interpersonal relationships can make or break anything that you build, and that really it's all about the people, not just the people that are on your team, but the people that are part of your ecosystem. And that was something that I picked up from him very early on. I also sort of was just bitten with the bug that you can create your own destiny and the life that you want, and therefore I always was itching to be an entrepreneur full time ever since I was very young. But the downside of this was my dad died when I was 16, and a lot of it was totally preventable. A lot of healthcare related issues that were somewhat of a byproduct of entrepreneurship, but also the attention and prioritization one puts in maintaining themselves and their body and their mind. So I took a lot of trauma from that, and it prevented me from jumping into entrepreneurship for a very long time until I felt a sense of security that whether this lives or dies, like it's not going to come at the detriment of my own survival or my ability to provide a roof for everyone that's dependent on me doing that. And that's been really helpful too, actually, because I reflect back on things that he could have done differently to still be alive today, hopefully. And I'm trying to bring the best of both worlds.
You made the decision at 16 after he passed to live on your own.
Yeah, I didn't have to do that. My mom is still alive, and I very much could have moved in with her. Granted, she wasn't in the same area as us any longer. But at the time, my mindset was that I was building something for myself, a community, friends, Boy Scout troop, job, like all this like security that I had built as a fairly independent person for being so young. In hindsight, probably one of the most reckless decisions I've ever made. And for those of you who have surviving parents, you should live with them. But I definitely subject myself to a crash course of bootstrapping and resilience like fairly early on because the world is not built for fully autonomous 16-year-olds. But you can accomplish a lot with a commission sales job.
Yeah. Well, and for those who are wondering whether you have a handle on the dealer space, I mean, you worked at your first dealership when you were 17. You were a service advisor before you graduated high school.
That's true. Yeah.
You know the dealer world, Jimmy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm very grateful to the dealer world and to Armstrong Volkswagen. That career move was one of the reasons I was able to find some security at a very young age and pursue the path that got me here. So yeah, the dealer world is near and dear to my heart. And that was true also while I was ironically running sales operations at Tesla, the most famously direct consumer automaker in the country and the world.
Yeah, right. Yeah, both ends of the spectrum. Yeah.
That's right.
A couple more things. Why plug if dealers are out there listening?
Yeah. Depends on what side of the coin you're on, but most dealers are just not in the used EV space right now, and they will be eventually, I believe. But for those who are not in that space right now, but need to sell new cars and need to receive EVs as trade-ins, we should be your first stop, your primary partner. There's no team on earth that's as intensely focused on properly putting numbers on used EVs as we are, and we take all the risk. We put our own money behind the number. For those who are in the used EV game and are proactively seeking inventory, chances are you've already heard of us. But if for some reason that's not true, get in here because we provide perfectly accurate representation of everything you're buying, from battery and range information, software-enabled features, charging network access, tax credit qualification, the pre-research that you would generally need to do. And in some cases not be able to do because information is incomplete or inaccurate when you're acquiring through any other channel is fully finished for you within our platform. And we guarantee the accuracy of every data point that you're using to make your bidding decision.
Where do you want to take all this, Jimmy? I mean, where does it go? If we have this conversation in a year, what does Plug look like?
Yeah, so the used EV market in the States should surpass $200 billion sometime shortly after 2030. And we want to be the majority we want to be the majority represented wholesale participant in that market. We want Plug to be the destination for dealers that want to make fast, transparent decisions on used EV acquisition and disposition. And we're going to continue to scale through our online model and through some partnerships that we have that enable a real estate component for consignors that need it. And we want to be the de facto platform for all off lease and all cycled out inventory from fleets and for all trade-ins for EVs.
Wonderful. We wish you the best of luck. Thanks for coming on and explaining your story. And it's a captivating one at many levels. A lot of twists and turns for you, Jimmy, but happy to see where you are and great to be with you.
Appreciate you, Jason. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That's the 47th episode of Full Throttle. A special thanks to my guest, Jimmy Douglas. And thanks for listening. For a library of these episodes with industry leaders, go to thepresidiogroup.com. I'm your host, Jason Stein. We'll talk to you again next time.